Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Well, actually, I know that I'm the last thing before lunch, so I hope that it's okay for you. We'll be quick. And also, the music was very nice, but it was, a little bit sad. So I hope my presentation will be not sad as the music, but that's fine. So, thank you to be here. When we decided the title of this presentation, I took a bet. I say, well, rubber grocking is a word that means nothing for now. So, will people be interested to know what I will be talking about? Sometimes, for more than looking from here, some took the chance to look what this was all about. So, let me be quick. Okay. Just the words about me, because I'm an old guy, and I'm around in this industry for 30 years more. Born when in this industry where the today expect 80 was something wonderful. So I've seen all the industry changing a lot in this. And a fun fact about me is that if you look my name into the JDK licensing information, you will find me, just because I wrote one line in one C library that someone took and that put in his library, and that library was moved into JDK. So it's not my merit, but I am there as well. I'm on GitHub, I'm on Dev2, Stack Overflow, and other place. I'm here on behalf of DXC. I worked for DXC for a long time, but we have a stand there, very close to where the lunch will be, so if you want to stop by there, would be nice. Okay, what we will talk about today. It will not be a technical session. I will show you what we are doing in this area. But when I talk to my guys and when I think about it, I think that we should go back to what it means to be developers. We are all developers, right? So even if, as I showed earlier, even if I'm an old guy, I'm still consider myself a developer, as someone who loves to create solutions, things that did not exist before, and solve some issue for someone, okay? We are developers. So what is a developer? A developer is someone who takes part of reality and creates a model for this reality so that I can simulate operation on this model and get something that will represent the same thing in reality. I do a withdrawal from my bank account. It's completely fake when I just go to the ATM and withdraw some money. Okay, but in reality, it has an effect. Okay, and if you stop thinking for a second, about this, and you think what you do as developers, as an architect, as a business analyst, as a programmer, coder, whatever, you think about what's real, and you think what is the best representation that I can use here for creating the system that I want to create. Okay, we are developers. There is a very interesting, for those that are a little bit more into philosophy, set of article in this site called Principia Cybernetica, which is from one university here in Brussels. I'm sure you will recognize the name. The QR code is there if you are interested, where this relationship between what is real, what is representation is done. Okay, so I said to myself, well, if we work on these models, what is the most important thing? What is the most important aspect that we have to take care of? Is understanding, right? Is understanding what the reality is, and then find a better representation for it. So I coined this term rubber grokking. I'm sure you are familiar with rubber ducking, right? Rubber ducking is just the current version of having someone to whom you can explain things in details, and that details, as long as you try to understand how to better explain to this little yellow duck your problem clarifies itself. And maybe you have tried already. It works. It works because just the effort of thinking of what your problem is and try to articulate it makes a better and more profound understanding of your problem and what went wrong. So I said, well, that's fine. Why do not extend this? So I remember this term that used to be very common when I was younger. There's grok. Grok comes from the Martian. In Martian, grok means to drink, okay? But also means to understand something so well that you are the same thing as the thing you are understanding. There is no boundary, okay? I can say, for example, that I grok C because I know C very well, because I think in C. Maybe I know Java, I know PHP, I know Perl, I know Python, but I know them, I don't grok them, okay? And so I said, well, so if you want to go further in this journey, if you want to provide some help in the developer's life, we should aim to grok things, not just to superficially understand. I'm sure you have seen a lot of articles and maybe the ones not in the specialized press saying, AI will remove the need for programming, AI will remove the need for a lot of things, and we will lose all our job to AI. And I claim that is not the case. I claim that the understanding is the difference between the two, between us and the AI. So rubber grokking is just the idea of having some rubber duck, which is not only able to stay there silent and help us understanding better things, but is able to provide feedback, is able to provide content. That content will be helpful for us to understand things better, to grok things. So we started in testing the ideas and testing a set of tools that we can develop for ourselves. I can tell you there are a lot of on the market. I'm sure that they are being presented. Our friends from AWS has very good tools. The problem is that each of us needs to understand that for the work that they are doing, the tool is right, or if they have to build their own tools. Because, as I was saying earlier, you should not be afraid. I'm sorry, I don't remember who said this, so it's a quote, but I cannot quote the person that firstly said this. So he said, you should not be afraid of losing your job to an AI. You should be afraid of losing your job to someone that knows AI better than you. So I do believe, that the AI opens, more specifically generative AI, opens possibilities to create tools that were not possible before. Now the next step is, how do I access API, generative AI? Okay, we are familiar with the models on OpenAI, on many other providers, okay? Basically OpenAI. The problem is that when you create an application for yourself or for your customer, you have some limitations, okay? You just cannot send all your data somewhere and being handled by someone you don't know. And maybe you have to be more careful on how the data is handled, or you want to have more control on how you refine your LLM, your artificial intelligence. So currently, of course, there are two methods. The first one is just to get a provider. We are working, again, Dixie is partnered with AWS, with Google, with Azure, with Microsoft, with everyone. So we tested both models and said, okay, there are cases where it's appropriate just to use, for example, OpenAI through Azure, okay? But there are some cases where you need to host, maybe on AWS, your own model. Because, as I was saying, yes, every one of us is a developer. Actually, they participate to a different stage in the development activities. So every one of us can benefit from a different type of tools. And so we are experimenting and we are using some of these tools to speed up our work, to better understanding what's going on. Even in project management, for example, I will show you an example. I will not go into details, so I'm hoping that this will be will start some questions from you. But it's just to show that we can use these tools for our work, not just for coding. It's not just for creating a bunch of code that we have them to refine and so on. So, for example, in project management, I'll show you we are using the summarization features that many AI has, can enable. For requirements, we are using it for ensuring, for example, that the requirements are not ambiguous. And of course, for coding and other aspects, there are the specific tools. But for coding, for example, it's easier. I generate a lot of code. Okay, I can think about it. But if you think about modernizing a system, you have a situation where you have a large client that have a very huge software base, and you go there, and the first thing that you discover is that there is no documentation at all. You don't just need to have a documentation, you need to have the relationships between that module, that program, and the database, and where things are. So there we can go and have some specific tools looking around, summarize, and provide us with information that will help us. I'm sure I'm saying this a lot, so I hope that you got it. Get what I mean. All these tools are helping us. They are not replacing us. But if we are not, and they are just in the infancy, there are not any established, provider that can say, okay, yes, I have the solution for everything, I can go there and it's fine. But if we do not start thinking now about this, we will not get all the benefits that we could have. So let me show you just the first one. This is the PMO assistant that we are putting together and testing. So what happens here is that we have meetings. We all have a bunch of meetings. And we have transcription. We have documents that were part of the meeting. They were submitted for that meeting. They were reviewed during the meeting. We have the Teams or Zoom or whatever recording of the meeting. And then we are facing with the task of creating, the meeting minutes and signing the task and be sure that everything is fine. So what we tried here, this is done with GPT-4. What we tried here is to, of course, the audio is transcribed in a textual form, to have the summarization of everything, the identification of the actors and the actions that have been assigned to each one, and then the production of the documents. We are not there yet, but you can imagine that the next step is to have that in the format that the clients will require. Then, of course, as I was saying, this is help. So there will be a review from a human person that will incorporate this documentation in the project documentation. And the summarization, of course, is done in the light of the current project documentation. One thing I want to say, because as I was saying, there are a lot of rumors about these tools, AI being able to do a lot of things, which is true. But if you look at the video on YouTube or other sources, you will find that whenever they talk about generating code, for example, they are just putting together a couple of HTML pages, some backend that asks for something to a database, and that's it. Very simple applications. We are faced in our day-by-day job by tasks that are much more demanding, okay? And clients that are much more demanding. So imagine if you put the wrong assignment to some actions to some client that is not able to perform this, and you do this repeatedly. So it's not just that you have the AI, I will fire my PMO and I will just use the AI, okay? This is not the case. Okay, the next one is something more technical, but again is in the light of business requirements. I think business requirements, business analysis is often not looking after enough. The reason is that business analysts are the first in front of the client, that they have to understand, again, what's going on there, but also they must have the ability to transform what they understood in a way that is more manageable by the next steps. We do not use waterfall, we use agile, we use whatever we want, but in reality, at a certain point in time, someone has to decide what needs to be done, what the clients want, and someone has to decide how we will build a system that will meet that demand from the client. Okay? And so the business analysts are often faced to the task to create diagrams, for example, UML diagrams or other stuff. This is a time-consuming task. And we created this small tool where you put your requirements or sentences in it, which you know that needs to be translated into some diagram. And we also invented a small language, very simple, of course, for having this diagram done. Okay? And so what we have done here, this is done directly on our OpenAI API. We created this textual language. We fine-tuned a little bit the model so that we can, have it producing the right format, the right textual description that we decided to use, and we provide some business context for this. What we did not provide yet is a good representation. What you see on the right actually is simply the text is transformed into graphviz dot file, and then the dot file is transformed in a graphical representation. We have to do some work there as well. Okay, so the last thing, the last example that I wanted to show is something that we use for code review. Okay, this is interesting because most of the time, like in two cases before, we are fine with using API provided by someone. Okay, but when you have to deal with a large code base and maybe you have to give visibility on the entire GitHub repository for analysis or whatever, it might be not appropriate just to disclose on the internet or just put somewhere on someone else storage all your data. It might be your client's data, so you might not be entitled to do that. So here what we experimented is to use some Llama model with 30 million parameters Llama model that we fine-tuned to be able to, first of all, of course, it's been, it has the embedding of the code base, but also is able to read the SonarQube findings and is also able to analyze and propose solutions. So the theme again is to not to have it do it everything. I want to know what the solutions are, and I will decide what to do. Actually, this goes a little bit more because we also added our corporate guidelines, the OWASP security guidelines, of course, and things like that. So what it does is directly from Jenkins. It goes, it takes everything from GitHub, try to compile, basically this is static, so it compiles it, running on Llama CPP, and produce something, let's say attempts to change something in the code, produce a new branch, and can be reiterated. Does it work? Yes, mostly, but still you have to go there and say, okay, this is the version that I want to have, the final version that I want to have in my repository. Okay. I think this will be a short presentation. I hope that you'll be happy. So one thing that we have to consider, will my AI tools be obsolete? Yes. And this is a practical joke that I try to make with Midjourney. You all know that Midjourney is not able to produce text in a correct way. DALL-E 3 maybe will be. So you will have to have workaround. So you will use Midjourney, for example, for creating part of the images. Then you change it with your preferred tools, probably GIMP. And so you make your workaround. The same is going on with the current models. So the current models are not trained enough or easy enough to run and so on. So I will use some workaround, but soon something else will pop up. I can tell you when we start working on this presentation on June, we used Falcon at that time, and we were running on Falcon. In the meantime, GPT-4 with 16Ks of context was not available yet. So a lot changed from June to today, which is September. So whatever you will create, and whatever you will try to adopt now, will soon be replaced by something else. So you have to, what we are trying to do, and I hope you will do too, is to identify the right balance between the effort that you are investing into fine-tune your model and put together your chain and all this stuff with the return, okay, what you're expecting, knowing that maybe very soon you will have to change it. Okay. Actually, I'm being much more quicker than I expected. So we came to our conclusion, hoping that you will have questions for me, and I will be happy to share any view that you might have on this. So what we are trying to do is to understand how these AI tools will change the way we work. As I said, and I hope you will agree with me, that our job is not to write code, is not to create a fancy architecture. Our job is to understand the world, because only in this way we can create the right tool, the right system that represents that world. And the world could be fictitious. I mean, if you are working on video games, the world that you have to grok is the world of the video game. So whatever will help you to understand better what you are doing, the task that you have at hand, it's a good thing, trademark. So generative AI, I said, is not a threat. I don't think it is. I hope you don't think it is. And is neither a shortcut. Because the value that they provide is not the content itself, in itself. Yes, it might be. But in the feedback that you get from the content they produce. Let me give you just, it's not that the content itself may not be sometimes useful, okay? But maybe this is more on the bar, but consider an example, okay? As a developers, now these tools are asking us to be more, I can say more, the bar is raised. Let me give you an example. Let me talk about the illustrators, right? You know, there has been a lot of talk about the illustrators losing job to Midjourney. Reality is that, yes, some of them are, because the content that AI is able to produce is on par with the content that some illustrators were producing. Okay? So if the AI will become better in producing code or produce representations that can be used to produce code, of course our job will be to do something more, to be better than those. So the guy that today is content just to being able to write a couple of HTML pages, okay, will tomorrow no longer have job. But he will be able the opportunity to use something that will help him to write something more complex and more interesting. Okay? So as I was saying, there are no generic tools. The specialized tools are hard to set up, but I think it's worthwhile. I think, and this is again, it's what we are trying to prove internally. I think now is the time to really think about our job, of course, but how these generative AI tools can help us. We started, and we wanted to share with you that we think this is the way to go. And very shortly, we are to question and answer set. And unless you are very hungry and want to jump to lunch, if you have any question or comments on this, yeah, please.
Do you have any recommendations or experiences to share about using these AI tools and large language models for grokking, that is for understanding a specific problem? Like if you try to extract the essence of some business requirement by discussing it with ChatGPT or whatever, what do you do? What do you avoid doing? How do you ensure that you don't waste your time going off on a tangent with the model, etc.?
Okay. Well, the first thing is to spend quite some time on the data that you will decide to feed to the model. I'm assuming, since you're talking about business requirement, the benefit there is there only if you are able to embed a substantial set of documents that are relevant for the business that you are working on. Thing that I've not reported here, but one thing that we did is to embed our own corporate proposals and other documents internally, so that whenever we need to talk about something that is very business specific, it's you can go there and say, okay, what we already said, what are our key messages we want to pass. Okay, so you have to work on the documentation up front. So select the right one, and then decide, because this thing that I'm just discussed is done again with the GPT-4 on Azure. Okay. Meaning that, of course, we trust Azure to store our documents, so we can put our documents there. But again, if they were some client-specific business documents, then you need to get permission from them. Okay, for this type of requirement, let's say for the business analysis, we think that using the commercial AI, so like GPT-4 or directly OpenAI, if you want, is enough. Or even one. Well, we did not try the 70 billion models, because what we are convinced is that yes, there are big things that needs to be done, but some things can run also on smaller models. So the things that we did with the Llama 13 billions. And personally, I'm involved in the Llama 2C project, where we are trying to run Llama models, so the Llama architecture, not the meta models, but the Llama architecture, with very, very few resources. Because if you can do that, you can create very specialized tool. Okay, so the scale is important. So think about the problem that you have to solve, and then if you in the end you want to embed or fine-tune your model, you need to work a lot of the documentation. Okay, I'll tell you just this: we tried the first time just to give everything. Okay, we said, okay, what the quickest thing that we can do? We just throw everything at it and see what happens. Yes, it was questionable output. Okay, so thank you. Any other question? I hope I did not bore you too much. I hope I give you some thought. As you can see, I'm very passionate about the idea that we developers are not just a bunch of technical guys. I think we are very close to the philosophers that in the ancient Greek they used to understand reality, through their thinking. Okay, I'm at the Dixie stand, So if you want to stop by, I will stay here, of course, for the rest of the time. And I will give you back 20 minutes for your lunch if you want. Thank you.